What is up? How's it going, guys? Today we're gonna draw we're gonna go over how to shade a skull. So I'm gonna pick a skull kind of in profile, and I'm gonna be using a polychromos pencil. It's a pencil. Woo! Ah! Sorry, I'm trying to wake up right now. Just feeling kind of tired. Not sure. I'm really not sure why. I'm just feeling tired. Don't get it. Don't try not to care that much. So I'm going to draw the skull in profile. The reason I'm going to draw it in profile, it's easy. It's easy to go over. I'm going to go over very specific kind of shading techniques on this. Not so much the broad shading, you know what I mean? For the basics, I'm sorry. I should have really drew this in here before I even started the video, but too bad. Hopefully you can see this. Tracing out the skull. One thing to remember the skull that every single person I know forgets would be, don't forget the back of the skull. The back of the skull encases the brain. I notice when people draw, they don't know how to draw at all. They tend to draw the face, and then they got some like hair kind of just like scooting out the back of it. They really forget the back of the skull. So always keep that in mind. That's like a newbie kind of thing to avoid, completely avoid that. Right now I'm laying it in very kind of sparingly just to kind of go over this. Okay. We're going to talk about like specifically pencils in general. Same thing with graphite. Let me sharpen this. So if you want, when you're looking at an edge, let's just say think of this skull in 3D, right? The light is coming from here somewhere, and the front of the face is going to catch light. And the way light works is light will roll around whatever corner whatever turn. So let's say you have a box, right? Let me see if this is on camera. If you have a box, you see that corner right there? If the light's coming from the same spot, that light is going to be, this is going to be in light, and this is going to be in dark, right? But think of the shape. The shape is a box, so the light immediately cuts off, right? But let's say you have like a smooth surface. See how it kind of rolls in that? And the light's coming from the same direction. Let me move this over a little bit. Now hopefully you see that. If the light comes from there, you have this smooth area. It's not going to stop because there's no corner, right? What it's going to do is it's going to slowly transition from light, slowly transition into dark. It's going to have this slow transition. See, it's going to be softer. That's how you smooth stuff out. So that approach, you take that everywhere. If you want to go further, normally light bounces off surfaces, and you're always going to be around a floor, or let's say it's you have a round shape on your face. It's going to bounce off your chest. Light is going to bounce off your chest, and usually bounces, let's say it goes by here, it bounces right back, whatever the object may be, bounces right back. Because of that, you have a little bit of light on this side. And so what that does is it causes something called a core shadow right here on this rounded edge. So this core shadow, that's what they call, really is because this light is bouncing back right here and making this not so dark. And so it looks like there's a band of shadow on that round part. If you have any questions, please shoot a comment right now. Go to the comment section right now and shoot me a comment. Because there should be questions, I would hope. So what I'm going to do, one second. Alrighty. So let's go into the orbital bone. The orbital bone is going to be really a little bit tricky. Actually, now that I think about it, it's not that tricky. It is. Alrighty. We're going to go right here, and I'm going to be putting with the side of the pencil. Usually when I do a soft edge like that, I use the side of the pencil, and then when I do a harder edge, I use a straight line. So I'm going to actually map out where I want the shadows. You know what I mean? See, this is going to be a rounded edge along the orbital bone right there. It's going to be kind of soft, and then it's going to get harder as it goes to the edge of the bone here. Soft over here as well. What I would do is practice from medical skulls. You can either buy one off a medical website, or you could actually just go on the internet, find a picture of a medical skull, go to an accurate one. Don't go to drawing of one, because that's someone's interpretation. Go to maybe like a medical website or something like that. Going down the nasal cavity. Right here, this is the edge of the mouth here. Right here, dimple over here, where the zygomatic arch eventually ties to. And there's going to be kind of a soft-ish edge over here. But there's going to be a hard one over here because it's the edge of the actual skull. Over here, this kind of round. It's kind of a round form. And a little bit of shadow down there, but not much. You have to judge how much shadow there is and isn't. Over here is a dark spot. The jaw kind of connects. There's going to be this connection. That's just a negative space. Same thing over here on this side. I'm going to fill this in right here because it's eventually going to be dark. So I fill this in entirely, almost. This is soft over here. I'm going to make this a little bigger. I'm looking at it and reevaluating it. Going to make it a little bigger. Trying to make a soft edge right here. Kind of rubbing it around. And I'm going to put a light kind of shadow over the whole thing because the light's coming from the front. Putting the edge there. I'm going to throw this on there just so I have something to work with to kind of get rid of the white of the paper. Alrighty. Let's get in more deeply here. I'm going to be darkening this a little bit because this is kind of like the deepest cavity of the eye, so it will be receiving less light than the outer part. Alright. Something about how the light's going to hit. Always thinking about edge. The edges of this, edges of that. Going down to the teeth. So what we're going to do is I would like to just really get in and shade certain parts so you know what I'm talking about. See, this is a broad kind of, it's almost like the way I outline the shapes, you know, then I go into the line. I'm kind of outlining the shadow, and then I would go into the shadow and kind of mess with that. So let's mess with one area. I'm going to mess with the Zygomatic Arch, which is the cheekbone right here, and then some over here, the tooth. And I'm going to do that to really show what I'm doing and try to... So I'm going to be going down more with the tip of my pencil, and I'm going to try to really manipulate the edge over here of the shadow of what's going on here. I'm going to make a sharp edge over here because it just looks nice to accentuate kind of an edge, like a sharp shape. And then it softens out. And that's going to be throughout the drawing. There's going to be really sharp shapes to accent certain areas. Contrasting, you know, the kind of smooth areas. Rub that with my hand a little bit. So this is a negative space over here with the tooth area. I'm going to put a really dark right here. It's a shadow within a shadow. Trying to separate some of the shadow, the shapes. So I separate this. So if I want to separate the cheekbone and make it look closer, I make the shape behind it a little bit darker, but not too much darker. The teeth, I'm treating the teeth like little tubes almost. All right. Let me go into this area and really try to shade it, and then I'm going to time lapse this, and then we'll come right back to it.
Last time I did it is when I went to jail again. It's like, are you kidding me? I had the best show of my fucking life. I went out, had a little wine, and I started making out with this guy. And the guy was like 30 years old. Everybody, this is one thing I didn't talk about all year because there's a lawsuit still up in the air, you know, like that. So I'm not allowed to talk about it. It's kind of over now.
So why are you talking about it now?
Because it's kind of over.
It's kind of over.
Yeah, we're at the tail end of it, let's say. But anyhow, I'm making out with this guy, and he's making out with me. I don't attack him. You know, I talk, and then we're making out. His girlfriend comes up, went berserk. His girlfriend, brother is a cop. Suddenly there's 20 cops there tapping me, going, come with me. Handcuffing me, just very angry. It's from, you know, the Mason-Dixon line all the way down south. It's just filled with homophobes.
Right, where was this?
It was in West Virginia.
This was in West Virginia.
Oh, it's
wow, you were making out with a dude in a bar in West Virginia.
Consensual,
man.
Consensual. I didn't.
Right.
Never again. That's the last time I did the show. It's been over a year ago. It was the best show ever. But when I do the show, back to the point, when I do my live show, Lucas opens for me, and that's all it is. Okay. He's not in the audience. I do plant a couple people, but I get that. I do this thing. I don't want to give it away,
right.
but I get the people there. It's always someone new.
So you were
find
suing
somebody.
the town?
I'm not.
They were suing you.
Yeah.
Wow. It seems like you should be able to sue them.
I know. Once again,
your story
it's
is
the boy who cries wolf. Oh no, it's completely accurate. We went there. I hired the best lawyer in town, and I'm taking a picture of you for my folks. They love you so much.
What happened in Columbus, Ohio?
I was just pissing. So do the thumbs up again. That's good.
You were pissing in the street in Columbus, Ohio?
I'm doing another one because you close your eyes. Hang on, just go. Well, you know what? When you drink as much beer as I do.
Right. I thought it was something else. I thought you peed on a person or something.
No, I'm not like that one.
The lines won't cross. So now you've been sober for 3 months. Are you doing a program? What are you doing?
Yes.
What are you doing?
The program.
Alcoholics Anonymous, is that what it is? Or Narcotics Anonymous?
If it was, I wouldn't tell you because it's not.
Oh. So,
you can do. Everything known to man.
I've always
So you
been
can assume I'm
fascinated.
doing it.
I've always been fascinated by those programs that try to reset the way you're thinking.
They
Do
work.
they approach that?
They work. They work.
What do they do?
work,
Do they
work.
give you patterns that
Well,
you?
at the very least, it's
supposed to
positive
follow?
thinking. That's
Right.
at the very least.
Right.
At the very most, at the very most, I don't know what you believe in spiritually, but at the very most, you're actually making like a conscious contact with God.
Right.
That's at the very most. And then, but at the very least, if it's positive thinking, fuck it, that's good enough.
Sure.
You know, if you're praying, that prayer at the very least is positive thoughts. You know, you're not sitting there worrying or being angry. You're praying. You're at the once again. I'll say it one more time. At the very least, you're positive thinking. Remember that back in the '70s, positive thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm writing. I love Joe Rogan. Or should I write? I love Joe Rogan.
Stay on the subject, man. I want to know what it's like. What is it like when you go into this thing and you have to sort of submit? Okay, I have a problem. You know.
Well,
help
the
me out.
weird thing for me about the program, and I'm going to say it again, it fucking works.
Right.
If you submit and you subscribe and you let go and
Right.
let them, they literally, in the program, they say, let us think for you, let us hold you up, let us love you until you love yourself. Like, let us love you until you learn to love yourself. And that's fucking awesome. You get these people in there, 50 years sober, 20 years sober, even 1 year sober. Even, I have 3 months, even the guy that has 4 months sober. I'm like, wow, this guy, I want to hang out with him. He's got 1 more month with me. But, you know, I'm the guy that knows the program inside and out. I've had 3 years of sobriety in a row. You know that. That's when I did the Andy Dick show. 3 years sober. I don't know if you know that. 3 years. Now, the other thing is I don't like, this is me personally, I'm going to preface it by saying, once again, it works. I've seen people get sober and stay sober. I've seen people go into the program, and if they drop out of the program, they're fucked.
Right.
Right? So, but the thing that weirds me out, and it's a thing, and it's an American thing, is that they call it a disease, okay? This is where I start getting weird. So if alcoholism is a disease, I have a disease. So it has to be treated. And it has to be treated by, in the program, there's certain things, there's steps, and that's how you treat it. Like in cancer, you know, the I don't know what you think about when people get cancer and they get radiation or the chemotherapy or whatever like that. I don't believe in all that stuff. I don't. There's other ways to do it. You know, like the Gerson therapy. You know about that. But let me.
Chemotherapy is incredibly effective on people that have cancer. There's a lot of
It
people
can
who are
work.
alive today because of
I
chemotherapy.
agree.
Certainly, organic diets and all those things are absolutely fantastic for you, but they're pretty goddamn good with chemotherapy these days.
It can really
help.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know,
really can.
I know what you're saying though. You're much better off having a very healthy diet and nutrient-rich diet, and you'll probably avoid a lot of stuff.
Well, watch the movie. What's it called? A Beautiful Truth or The Beautiful Truth. It's about the Gerson therapy. You'll love
Okay.
it. But anyhow, so here's the dichotomy that bugs the fucking shit out of me.
The disease.
So I'm diseased. All right, let's just take me.
Okay.
I'm Andy Dick. So look at that. Look at that poor fool. He's got a disease.
Alrighty, we're back, and I kind of cheated around a little bit. I mean, there's still a lot more work I want to do, but I want to talk about this. I went in there and I tried to, the closer and more detail I get, I stand more and more on the tip of my pencil and I start flicking little lines in the same way I do there. I want to follow the direction, almost like I'm cross-hatching, you know? Almost like tiny little cross-hatching. And I'm trying to trace over, you know, I'm trying to shape and trying to mold, you know, the direction. I'm thinking in 3D at the same time. Every line I try to pull in the direction of the surface of the skull itself. Last thing I add right now, at least for the demo, is I had a very, very darkish shadow pattern over here. Shadow pattern. Yeah, like the shadow on the floor. And that can really accent the whole thing sometimes. Sometimes I like that. Sometimes it really... I'm pressing really hard on this pencil. Well, you can see that. Like I said, sometimes that accents the whole thing. One more thing, I'm going to go up here to the brow. Using the tip of my pencil here for all this over here. I'm putting a layer of glaze over the whole thing a little bit as well. Because I want the brightest spot to be toward the top of the skull over here. That's turning in space. Let me see. So. And one more thing that bothers me. I want this to connect to something. So I want it to connect back here. Alrighty, and that's about it for the demo. And if you have any questions, please post them below. I'm going to be going over shading maybe again, maybe more specific parts, of the skull, maybe a different angle. But this has been the first of shading with a pencil, just regular shading a skull. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you next time. Please subscribe. Subscribers help a lot, and like this video if you learned anything from it. And I'll see you. Thank you.